Hey, I'm Landon.
I'm Jason.
I'm Hayden. We're Sir Sly. We're hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
It's been a while since you guys have actually been on the road, right?
Yeah.
So
We just got back from a week on the road, but before
Okay.
that, it was a little over a year since we had even played a show.
right.
Yeah, over a year since a show, 2 years since tour, like almost 3 since a
Man.
headline tour. So this has been like it's been a nice return.
As you guys continue to tour, does the kickoff day become easier? Does it become harder for you guys? Does it change at all?
I think it becomes easier as tour goes on. I think we just get in a routine and everything becomes like, I don't know, the muscle memory is really building.
Yeah.
So we just can flow through these songs really.
Yeah, and then there's also you learn to weather kind of any storm. You learn that things break. You're not gonna you won't hear things maybe in your monitor. And you just kind of get used to it. That's what it is. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, sometimes.
But you're always raging against the machine of chaos and trying to make sure that things are as in control as possible. But yeah, for this first week, for this week leading up to this first show, it's been kind of a mad dash too. I kept on looking at this first show as the finish line, and then the rest is just probably coasting and knowing that everything's set up and stuff. But this is the first time playing in so long, and we doing setup for production rehearsals and all that kind of stuff, and running around, running errands and making sure that all the gear worked properly, and then substituting some things that weren't working properly, all that kind of stuff. It's been a lot of work. Yesterday was an 18-hour day, so
It's been good.
but it's been good. Yeah, I was saying to somebody yesterday, it's better to work hard than to have nothing to work on.
That's very true.
And honestly, the record that we're putting out in, I guess, 6 hours. I guess it's coming out right now.
It's part of the marathon, man.
Yeah, exactly. This record, it's I believe in this record so much that I will do anything to support. I will tour until people are please don't tour. Get away from me. We're just gonna. So it feels good. It's yeah.
It doesn't feel like that time's on the horizon anytime soon, though, where people are asking us not to tour.
No. But I'm.
We've been out for a week, and Hayden's already talking about people begging.
Are you guys done yet?
People are screaming for mercy. It's
Like next month, we're people don't really want us to tour anymore. We're gonna head back into the studio and make album 3. No, we love being on the road, but I think it's been really nice for us to be at home for the past couple of years and to really focus on making a record that we're proud of and that we can that gives us some legs to go and tour as much as we want to over the next year or two.
Right. With this album, you guys produced it yourselves and recorded it yourselves, right? It was at Jason's place. What was the process like this time around on the album?
I think it was different than the last album we recorded at Jason's studio as well and wrote it all there as well. This album was a little bit different just because it took a little bit longer, and we kept on thinking we were finished, and then something would happen in my life, and they'd be like, okay, let's go back and write more. Right. That's something that needs to make it onto this album, and then we would go okay, it's time to record, and then we worked with a different producer for a few days, and then we were like, you know what, I think it feels better to go back and maybe just end up renting some gear for ourselves. Tag teaming the stuff that we already had in the studio with renting. We rented a bunch of drum kits from one of our friends who produces a lot of drums, and then we rented some mics, and Jason stockpiled a bunch of new keyboards and stuff. So it was just kind of us sitting around and tinkering and making sure that the songs were all getting made every step of the way in a way that we were going to be proud of them. I think that this album took us a lot longer. We worked a lot more hours in that way, to keep on going back and forth between writing and then recording and then stepping back and writing a little bit more and then recording again. It was a long process, but it never felt like we were forcing anything. It always felt like we were chasing after this gut feeling of what we knew the album was going to feel like and sound like at the end. Yeah. And we didn't really stop until all of us felt that kind of feeling settle. I think there was that general, you could kind of tell there was an ease in the room once we were done recording. We were like, oh, this is we're done. We're done. And now it's Jason, spent a lot of time mixing the album, and we had an outside mixer for the first time do a couple songs as well. And I think that the way that everything ended up working out, we all seemed really happy with it.
Yeah. I think we. Oh, there you go. I think we pushed. I think we ended up pushing for that sonic ideal a lot more than we did on the first record. Like there was like there was a lot more of like, yeah, it sounds close but not right. Let's try this. Sounds pretty close, still not perfect. Like that didn't quite happen as much on the first record. This time really became an almost exhaustive like process of searching for the right sounds.
Would you say the first record was you guys were still kind of figuring out who Sir Sly was?
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing that on this album, and I assume we'll be doing that on the next album and the album after that. It's always it's the same way with, like, you know, you think you know yourself when you're 22, and then you get married, and a few years later you're divorced, and you're like, oh, I didn't really know myself that well at all. And now I feel like I know myself a lot better. And likewise with music, like with making music and being a songwriter. And I think with, like, Hayden coming into his own more as a producer as well, and, like, bringing in his own pieces and stuff, that was a big part of making this album. And then Jason stepping out into different avenues, and like I said, we had different kinds of gear to be working with, and it was a lot of fun, I think, for all of us to show our personalities in the album. If you were to, like, know who did all of what throughout the whole record, I think you would start to get a good idea and sense for who we are as musicians and what it was that we all individually brought to the table. And yeah, I think the first record is, in retrospect, I think there's a lot of filling in the blanks that you do in your own mind as a songwriter, where you go like, oh, yeah, it sounds like it sounds like this, but, like, your brain fills in the blanks and almost, like, turns it into something that's not. I think the first record we were less exhaustive, like Hayden said, with trying to close that disparity between, like, we didn't want any of it to be filling in the gaps mentally for ourselves and making sense of it, but to actually have the thing that you're listening to be as close as possible to the perfect ideal situation.
And he was mentioning sound, like getting that kind of sound, but as far as, like, getting those lyrics down, how many times did these songs on the album, like, get rewritten? I mean, was there a specific song or two that you might have trashed and then later on decided, no, this has to be on the record? And if so, why?
Once something gets ixnayed, it doesn't come
forever.
back.
It might get scrapped for parts. We've occasionally taken, like, or like a vibe where it was like, oh, like that general drum idea was good from that trash song. But yeah, once it gets in the trash, it goes. I'm trying to think if any.
It's like once you've tossed a piece of food into the trash, you're not going to go back into it and be like, actually, that kind of looks good.
We did fun
like 5 times.
Yeah.
One song on the record called "Fun." We did that.
Yeah, but we never trashed it. It was never like once you've
Yeah,
moved
yeah,
on.
written.
Once you've moved on, like once you go, oh, that song no longer fits on the album. There's a reason why. There's a distinct reason why. Like, oh, we wrote a song that fills that feeling that we wanted a little bit better, so it will, like, edge a song. Like, one of my favorite songs early on was a song called "Good for You," that we ended up. There were, like, 2 other songs that did what that song did, and so that one just got pushed away, and there was never really an inkling of, like, trying to reach back and figure out a way to put it. Like, once everybody was decided that it wasn't going to be on the album, it's decided. So after, you know, and you get better at being less precious about those types of things. When you write 50 songs for a 10-song album, you're not very precious about kicking stuff off.
Now, with Jason, did you do any producing or recording prior to Sir Sly, or is this something that you just started learning as the band was starting to build and write music and go on tour?
I mean, I've been playing bands since, like, high school, and just figuring out a way back then to get your music on a CD was always a challenge. Like, we didn't have money to, like, pay a studio, so, like, me and my buddy would just, like, hack together a recording rig and get some software, and we just started learning. It was just trial and error, and then just been doing it ever since.
And the fact that you know how to do that, is that something that you guys want to keep doing for the band every time you guys write, or do you guys eventually want to branch out to different producers?
I think we'll just kind of take what comes to us. We're really happy writing and working, just the 3 of us. I think there's a really nice open. I've been using the word safe a lot. That, like, the studio is a great safe place to go and work out whatever it is that we want to work on. And I think until we find a 4th member, or not a 4th member, but, like, until we find a 4th situation where, like, yeah, it'd be nice sometimes, I think, to get Jason out from behind the computer, so that he's able to just work a little more closely with just instruments and not thinking too much about having to also engineer everything. If we find somebody like, you know, Radiohead found Nigel, or, like, you know, there are bands that work over and over again with the same producer. If we found somebody like that felt like, you know, part of that really intimate team, then yeah, I think that we'd all be open to that kind of situation. But until then, we're perfectly happy working and continuing to do stuff on our own. And I think this album too, we really matured, all of us, in being able to have input as well for like production.
Like you've been reading my questions. That's what I was going to go into. Like, how did you feel you've matured within the last 2 albums?
Yeah, I think we've matured, especially just from the production standpoint. Like we had to be really trusting of Jason throughout the whole first record to do most of it, because I don't think we had learned how to articulate any of the types of thoughts and feelings that we had about production stuff. There was we were very collaborative in the songwriting process, but not as much on the back end. And throughout the recording process, we didn't really even go back and touch most stuff on the first album for re-recording purposes. But this album, it was pretty clear that all of us were going to have pretty strong opinions, and so it was about finding a way that all those things work together. Right. So we matured as human beings as well, just being able to communicate and let things go and trust each other with the decisions we're making.
We had days on this record that we didn't really the first time around. We had days where we would get in and we would just like end up mostly just talking to each other all day. Like on some days it was like fun stuff. It was like, dude, have you heard this? Like, have you seen this music video? Other days it was like there was some stuff we needed to hash out. Like things were weighing on everyone, and it was like there were literally days where we didn't write a song. We just like sat on Jason's couch in the tracking room and or in the
office hours.
Yeah, and it's just like so that but that's real. As a band, you have to do that. Yeah. Like I don't like it's not easy to maintain between 3 people a strong, creative, and like honest connection.
Right. I'm sure, and you can't force it. Like it has to come naturally, or else you're gonna hear it.
Yeah, it's like spring cleaning. It's like every once in a while you need to make sure that everybody's side of the street's clean and that everybody's happy with the situation that's going on. Because the last thing I would want is to ever have it feel like there's not an open, safe place to be able to talk about the things that aren't going well. And if you don't go over that kind of stuff, anytime you're working with somebody as much as we are, there's going to be things like that there's going to be tension and friction occasionally. And making sure that the working environment is positive and enjoyable for everybody along the way takes a bit of time. Every once in a while there's a day where it's like, let's not dive in and try to make any big decisions right now. Let's just talk about like what's going on. Right. Everybody's cool with everything, right? And it's like,
I feel like as things are like quickly moving for you guys don't realize the steps that you guys have been taking because you guys are so used to like that fast pace that you don't realize, hey, like we just wrote a new song or something, like
once things start happening, like once you've opened up that box to say we're releasing a new album, we are going on tour, it becomes much harder to appreciate the milestones, like the beautiful moments and like moments of just this like really like well-meaning sense of like, I really I wrote a song today, great. Like it doesn't really quite feel like that once you're in the thick of everything. But I think there's like a bit of pressure. It feels good too, but it's not quite as pure as when you're like trapped in the studio.
Now I know on this record, you guys were waiting on some sample approvals or something like that. Is this the first time that you guys have worked with samples? And if so, like, why did you choose to do so?
Yeah, it's definitely the first time that not maybe the first time that any of us have individually worked with samples, but definitely the first time that we brought it to Sir Sly and actually had the need to end up getting those things cleared and stuff. So that was on the back end. It was it's a bit of a logistical nightmare, but on the front end, it's really inspiring. I think to be able to use even like something simple like that's that flute sound or something. Right. It's not like Jason and I were talking. Somebody was like, "Hey, could you from the team from the labels could you guys recreate it?" And I'm like, "No." Like if you look at if you just think about all the variables about that flute was recorded in some room in an orchestra setting, and there were a bunch of people, and it was this type of mic going through this type of thing, like back in the 70s or whatever it was, and then that was pressed to vinyl, and then that vinyl aged a certain way, and then it was played through a certain thing and recorded in that way. It's like, no, we can't recreate it, not in the way that is going to give us the same feeling that when we hear it, that we're gonna fuck with it over and over and over. Like we love that sound, so no, we can't. Like the whole, well, in a lot of these cases, the sample is a really integral part of the instrumental itself. It's the center point. Right. So to try to recreate that, it's one thing to say like, oh yeah, it's just, you know, somewhere in the background. We can find something that fills that space, but there's nothing like that aging process and whatever it is that created that sound and that tone, and then to build a song around that is has been a really fun and special thing for us. I think I described it yesterday as like they would bring in some like samples and stuff, which because I never brought in any pieces that started with samples. They started with sample, and it's like my job to hop on like all of our jobs like hop on that wave and ride it to its conclusion. And I think it definitely opened up a lot of different feelings on this album as far as like it would bring out certain things lyrically or remind me of a certain lyric that I had written before, or bring up a whole new feeling. Like there's this one of the samples is from a French film for the song Head First, and it's about a sailor.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And it was just like I think I had seen maybe a clip that I never even watched the movie, but it came, which is like so I should watch the movie. But it's there's a clip, and it's like I watched the clip maybe, but then it worked its way into like the back of my brain, and the whole song ended up being about like this metaphor for a relationship of like diving in head first. Right. So like even that kind of thing, there's a feeling and there's a sense that like a sample brings to a song that kind of wraps you up into it. And for us as songwriters, I think that was a really inspiring thing, this album.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys did some experiment, like actually not some, like a lot of experimenting with this record. And I mean, it obviously works because you were just saying you're excited about this album. So I'm actually excited to hear it, but I'm excited to hear what the fans have to say about it.
Yeah, me too. I think I think I'm as a baseline, I'm just really proud that we made it, and I'm glad that it exists. For me, selfishly, I'm really happy to have this album, and I think that you know how much people like it or don't like it is all icing on the cake. Right. At the end of the day, it's been a pleasure to make it, and it kept me alive, I think. I don't think I would have made it through these past couple of years if I didn't have that place to go to and to write.
It was your release.
Yeah, it was amazing. And so that's all that really matters to me, and then everything else is just the fun stuff. Like it's just supporting that original vision and that feeling of gratitude that we got to even make the record in the first place.
And on the record, you guys released the music video for High. And that was some choreography in there. You guys looked like you actually knew how to dance. Like it didn't look like you just got taught that day. So
that sounds like the opinion of somebody who's not a dancer.
Damn, I've been caught.
I've seen enough Dancing with the Stars to know that I couldn't make it through that show. Actually, I've never watched that show.
We had 3 days of rehearsal, and I'm maybe you guys didn't.
Hardest rehearsals of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I was not gonna say I'll speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure I speak for all. I was like, we were working hard because we were like, you don't want to look like an idiot. Like this is, and like, I don't want to like disrespect like. I want to like try to dance. Like I'm not like so. So yeah, it was amazing. Actually, while we were there, Landon mentioned Dancing with the Stars. I've told like 1 or 2 people this. It's an enjoyable story. We were trying to get into our dance room, and Mr. T was practicing for Dancing with the Stars, and he like I was like, hey, it's like they charge by the hour. I was like, it's kind of our turn. It was like 10 after. These guys were still a little late, and he's like, hold on, I just got like a couple more. And he was like running his dance routine, and then was like, thanks, man, and signed a keychain and gave me the keychain. So I got a signed Mr. T keychain out of it.
Hey, that's awesome.
And I learned like some
not just not a random keychain. Mr. T was carrying around Mr. T keychains.
like
novelty keychains. He's like,
he was prepared.
He's like, sorry, I went over.
He was prepared.
And handed like, I think he signed a bunch of them, and like we got into the room, and Hayden was like, you guys will never.
He goes, how many people are in your band? And I was like, what? 3? But and he's like, okay. And he's like, sign them all.
Handed to Hayden.
It was great.
Now the running joke is that Hayden had bought Mr. T novelty keychains, pretended he met Mr. T, forged his signature, and then was like, you guys will never believe what happened.
That's what you get for being late. You know, you'll never know. Yeah.
Now, lastly, for this tour, you guys are taking out a band that I recently got into, Shade. I personally love their live show. What is it about them that you guys wanted to take them out on tour?
I mean, seeing them, I saw them at this venue actually. You know, she's got a powerful voice. They have a cool vibe, and we like the songs. And it was a guy who mixed our album, part of our album, Neil Avron. He also mixed some Shade stuff, and so I think that's how I first heard it. It sounds really nice, and yeah, we're really excited. We haven't met him yet, so we'll meet him in Atlanta in a couple days. Yeah.
Neither Jason or I have seen them live either, so we implicitly
They had to
trust
trust me on this one.
we trust Hayden's input on a live show.
You'll be in for a treat, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're excited to have him out.